Hey, welcome. Today we are tackling a huge topic, something that's woven into the very fabric of daily life in India: corruption. It's a challenge that shapes pretty much everything, from getting a driver's license to building a nation. So the big question is, can this cycle actually be broken? Or is this just the way things are? Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that really tells a story: 62%. According to a major study, that's how many Indians have had to pay a bribe for a public service. And get this isn't some far-off political scandal we're talking about. This is the reality on the ground, a routine transaction that a huge majority of people have actually gone through themselves. All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to define what this problem really looks like. Then we'll dive into the different forms it takes. After that, we'll trace its history to see how we got here, look at the fight against it, and then finally, we're going to ask that really tough question. Is this whole thing an unwinnable battle? So first things first, we've got to be on the same page about what corruption actually is and, where India really stands when you look at the rest of the world. It's really easy to think of corruption as just, a bag of cash being passed under the table, but it's so much bigger than that. It's this whole range of abuses, from hiring your unqualified nephew for a government job to rigging a billion-dollar contract. At the end of the day, it all boils down to one thing: abusing public power for personal gain. And this is where things get really interesting. When you look at the global picture, well, think of it like a test score out of 100, where 100 is squeaky clean. India gets a 38. That's not just a low score, it's actually lower than the average for its own region and the world. So that tells you a lot about how the country is perceived from the outside. Okay, but here's the thing. Not all corruption looks the same. To really get a handle on this, you have to understand that it basically operates on two totally different levels. Yeah, you can really split this into two big categories. On one hand, you've got grand corruption. This is the big stuff, the stuff you see in the headlines involving huge amounts of money and high-level officials. But then there's petty corruption, and this is the everyday grind, the small bribe you have to pay just to get something basic done, like getting a permit. And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. It calls petty corruption a shadow tax. And that's exactly what it is: an unofficial tax that nobody voted for. And because it's usually a set amount, it hits the poorest folks the hardest, right? Because it takes a way bigger chunk out of their wallet. And the ripple effects of all this? They're huge. It spooks investors. Money that was supposed to build schools or hospitals just disappears. And maybe worst of all, it poisons the well. It completely destroys the trust people have in the very institutions that are supposed to be there to help them. So you gotta wonder, how do we get here? How did this become so baked into the system? Well, to answer that, we actually have to go way back.
Yeah, this isn't something that just popped up overnight. The roots go all the way back to the colonial era and its systems of patronage. Then, after independence, you get the infamous license Raj, this incredibly complicated maze of permits that basically made bribery a normal part of doing business. And even after the economy opened up in '91, that deep-seated culture just stuck around.
So all that history, it's not just history. It built the foundation for the problems we see right now: a jungle of red tape, officials who can make big decisions with almost no oversight, and really weak enforcement. It's the perfect storm for corruption to thrive with almost no consequences. But, and this is a really big but, people aren't just sitting back and taking it. There's been a huge, powerful fight against corruption coming from all sides, from the top down and the bottom up. It's basically a two-pronged attack. You've got action from the top down, with new laws and institutions designed to keep things in check. And then you have this incredible energy from the bottom up, with regular citizens organizing and demanding change. So let's talk about the laws first. Things like the Right to Information Act were supposed to be total game changers. They gave any citizen the power to demand transparency from the government. Then there was the Lokpal Act, designed to be an independent watchdog for the top brass. Now, on paper, these were massive, powerful tools. And while the government was creating laws, the people were hitting the streets. The India Against Corruption movement was huge. It put this issue front and center for the whole nation. And activists got really creative with things like the zero-rupee note, basically a fake bill you could hand to an official demanding a bribe. How clever is that? It's a nonviolent, brilliant way to make a stand. Okay, so this is the real head-scratcher. You've got these powerful laws, you've got massive protests. So why is corruption still such a huge problem? Well, the answer gets a little complicated, and it's full of these strange paradoxes in the political system.
So, at the core of this whole thing is this weird trade off that researchers have found. Basically, it means a lot of voters care more about what they get from a politician than how they get it. So, a politician who's maybe a little corrupt but delivers the goods, gets the road paved or helps with welfare benefits, can actually beat an honest one who struggles to get things done.
And this just throws a wrench in the whole idea of simply voting for the best person, right? You see a few things happening. You have what's called clientelism. I'll vote for you if you help me personally. You have identity politics, where just having someone from your community in power is more important than anything else. And get this, sometimes a criminal record is actually seen as a good thing, like it's proof that this person is tough enough to get things done and protect their voters. And it's not just about how people vote. The system itself has a way of protecting the status quo. Those anti-corruption groups, they face political interference. The courts, they can be painfully slow. And enforcement agencies can sometimes look like they're being used to target political opponents. The whole system is it's designed to resist change because so many people benefit from it staying exactly the way it is.
So, here's where we land. It's a clash between this massive push for transparency and change on one side and a deeply embedded system that is incredibly good at resisting it on the other. And that leaves us with the biggest question of all. Is real, lasting, systemic change even possible? Or is this just part of the system? That's the billion-dollar question for India's future.